All right, let's talk the other duo that I mentioned, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Phoenix now 3-0 with Kevin Durant in the lineup. Great game yesterday, Suns-Mavs. I wrote about the Mavs defense. I want to touch on this real quick. I wrote about the Mavs defense in the newsletter this morning. Farewell to takes. You can go subscribe anywhere. I wrote about the defense. So they've played 10 games with Kyrie. Luka missed the first 2. So they've got 8 games since Luka came back. They're 2-6 in those games. Kyrie played in 7 of the 8 games. So they're 2-5 with both of them in the lineup. Scoring has not been the issue. Third best offense over that stretch in those 8 games. They've got the league's worst defense. Like, this was the concern, and it's bearing itself out, and it hasn't improved. So they're with 2 closers too. They're 1-4 in clutch games. Like, I like the move in some ways. I think this is a move that if Kyrie re-signs and they can build around those 2 guys, I like the move in the future. I don't think that they're going to be an elite team this year. The Suns, however, are ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
Yeah. How do they keep Ayton? How do they keep Ayton engaged?
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. I think that's the concern a little bit, is just figuring out a way to. It's not a concern. I think it's early. Figuring out a way to stagger Booker, Durant, CP, Ayton. Figuring out pockets of the game where CP and Ayton can play pick and roll with shooting around them and really just kind of operate in that 2-man game. Because you're right. I think Ayton is a guy that you've got to be able to feed. And some of this is just a 3-game stretch with Devin Booker. I mean, he's taking 25 shots a game since they got Kevin Durant. 56% from the field, 50% from 3, averaging 36 a game. Katie, by the way, just ridiculous. I remember, I watched that first game, and it's just like, it's almost unfair when he just decides to just get to his spots and just shoot. And he's so efficient, 69% from the field so far. He's 27 a game on 14 shots. Like, it's just ridiculous. One thing I wanted to bring up, this is interesting. I had somebody from Second Spectrum give me some data, very small sample size. Breaking down Devin Booker. Because I think the argument is like, Devin Booker, his life is going to get better with Kevin on the floor. And I think that's true. So I had them look up only 3 games, of course. Booker actually has been blitzed more frequently in these 3 games than he was pre-KD. And again, small sample size, but he's been doubled more in post-ups post-KD as well. I found that really interesting. And again, I don't have the data in front of me about whether or not Kevin was on the floor for all those doubles and blitzes. But it goes back to my point about the staggering. What a luxury to have.
Yeah.
This was the issue with Phoenix, is that they didn't have that second scorer. And look, they run great stuff. Monty's a great coach. CP's a great orchestrator. Mikal was coming on. But there's a difference between CP at 38, almost 38, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, and Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker in terms of just their shot creation.
Is there anything with those blitzes? I was going to bring up Wainwright, who was huge for them yesterday. And I think, they're going to need him to keep, he's only shooting, I think he was shooting 36% on corner threes before yesterday. That's probably gone up. But they're going to need him to be at that high 30s, low 40s, I think, for him to play. But is some of that just like, teams are basically, I mean, you could see the way Dallas was playing him yesterday. They were basically like, if this guy's going to beat us, he's going to beat us. And he did. But it's sort of like those guys have to prove themselves a little bit.
Well, I don't know who the 5th guy is. And in talking with Monty right before Kevin came back, this was last weekend when I did their OKC game, he said, we asked him about this, and he just said, I think the 5th guy is by community, depending on matchups, depending on the flow of the game. Josh Okogie has had a great stretch of shooting. Torrey Craig has had a good shooting season. Wainwright had a big game yesterday. Maybe if depending on defensive matchups, maybe it's Terrence Ross. I don't know. But my point is this: that is going to be the strategy. I think that is the strategy when you get to the playoffs, is like, make the 5th guy beat you. Because I talk about, like, when all those guys are on the court, all four of those guys, we saw in the Dallas series last year, them just blitz the shit out of Booker. All of his pick and rolls, all of that backside action, the old Manu Ginobili play. I used to run it in Philly. Obviously, Manu would come off to his left hand, but I ran the same stuff that they run for Devin, which is basically he's in the corner, he gets a pin down, the big up top goes to that dribble handoff, and he comes off to his right. Dallas just blitzed the shit out of it. And over the last two games was very effective in limiting Booker because of that. So you go, okay, well, if you're going to blitz him now, you've got Kevin Durant on the floor. If you decide to blitz Kevin Durant, you've got Devin Booker on the floor. You can't play drop against this team. You can't, because the point of drop coverage is to force mid-range jumpers. Well, guess what? You have three of the four most efficient and most high-volume mid-range shooters in the NBA. So you're kind of playing into hands if you play drop. They're leading the league. I don't know what it is after last night. This was as of yesterday. They're leading the league with almost 2,000 points scored against drop this season. The next closest team is like Detroit, and it's 17% less than that. So they're by far the best team against drop. So, okay, you say, all right, so we can't play drop for 7 games. We're going to blitz at times. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to leave Wainwright open. Kevin's got it going, and he's an ISO. You're going to go double. Devin's got it going. He's an ISO. He's going to go double. And that's the guy. It's going to be the fifth guy. And yes, there will be times where that fifth guy has a 5 or 6 3-point game in a playoff series. Because I think that has to be the strategy. If I'm a coach and I get into the playoffs and I'm strategizing and I'm like tinkering with coverages and whatnot, like these guys are too smart. So at some point, you just got to blitz them or you got to double them. And you got to say, we're willing to live. I don't know if I'm a coach. I don't know that I'm willing to live with a steady diet of drop coverage against those 3 guys. I don't know if I'm willing to live with blitzing Kevin Durant and being in normal rotation and, playing by chance. Oh, Devin Booker gets an open look. DeAndre Ayton gets to catch it in the middle of the paint on a short roll and shoot his little floater. No, I'm saying we're going all out on everybody else, and we're going to make Ish Wainwright beat us. We're going to make Josh Okogie beat us.
Wasn't this sort of Milwaukee strategy against Brooklyn a couple years ago with Kevin and James, and the guys in the Nets did not beat them, and that's sort of why they won? Well,
the strategy changed. Because they were at times doubling Kevin. The strategy in Game 7 was we're going to shut off everybody else, and if Kevin can beat us by himself, like they gave PJ Tucker no help in that game, and PJ battled his ass off, and Kevin had 48 and made some unbelievably tough shots. But they actually went the opposite way. They said, we're just going to if Kevin beats us by himself, hats off to him. And he fucking nearly did, by the way. He fucking nearly did. I'm excited to see the sort of growth, development, the tinkering that Monty does with this team. It's going to be fascinating. If you want to watch the rest of the episode, check out The Old Man of the Three Things, available exclusively on Amazon Music.